recently we brought you the exclusive India driver Mercedes' new compact SUV, the GLA. In that story, Hormuz told you all about the petrol version of the GLA, which is the GLA 200, and now we've got our hands on the diesel, the GLA 200 CDI. Now this 2.2-litre diesel engine is one we're very familiar with. We've seen it in the past in the C-Class and more recently, of course, on the siblings of the GLA, the A and B class. They're all built on the MFA platform, but the engine here for the GLA has been uprated a little bit. Which is why the GLA wears the 200 CDI badge while the A and B class use the 180 CDI nomenclature. But what is the actual difference? Well, in the GLA's case, the engine is the same, but it is retuned to deliver 134 bhp of power, which is 27 bhp more than the A and B class. Also, the 30.6 kilograms of torque is greater as well. But when you compare the GLA specs to its rivals, it doesn't sound all that impressive. For instance, Audi's Q3 packs 174 bhp of power and 38.4 kilograms of torque. And the BMW X1 tops all of them with 181 bhp and 38.74 kilograms. So what does the GLA feel like to drive on the road? The thing is, when you put your foot down hard, that little punch is somewhat lacking. The gearbox downshifts a bit leisurely, and the slug of torque even then is, at the best, mild. So you have to rev the motor up hard to get it going, which means overtaking maneuvers or having fun on a twisty road will require a bit of work. And when you rev it up, you'll find that the engine remains smooth, but that diesel thrash is quite audible in the cabin. The 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox also lets you down when you're in a hurry. The dual-clutch gearbox is prompt quick when you're shifting up, but shifting down, it sometimes tends to do its own thing. But I think that's more to do with the engine because the red line is very low at about 4,500 RPM, so it has to kind of play it safe. But it will cruise pleasantly on highways, and if you aren't planning on driving rally style, the GLA should suit you just fine. The good thing is that this engine is pretty smooth and it's got adequate responsiveness and feels fairly enjoyable for everyday normal city kind of driving duties. On our drive up to Shimla, I got used to the power, or rather the lack of it, and yet enjoyed the drive up. One of the reasons for that was the dynamic ability of the GLA. It might be a front-wheel drive, but it is well tuned with independent suspension at all four corners, which makes it enjoyable in more ways than one. The GLA though is pretty good fun to steer. I mean, yes, the steering is a bit light, you could do with more feedback from the front wheels, but you've got good grip from the front axle. I mean, yes, this is a front wheel drive, so you get understeer, but that's only when you push it really, really hard. So this is very enjoyable. For India, the GLA has been bestowed with the Bad Road package, which gives it an extra 30mm of ride height. So you have a pretty decent 183mm of ground clearance. And the ground clearance was used to great effect by this front-wheel drive GLA through this water crossing. It made it through smooth and easy. The extra ground clearance is of course a huge boon on our roads, but the suspension setup itself is great. I mean, it's soaking up potholes, rutted sections with a great amount of composure. It has a little bit of stiffness to it, but that really doesn't detract from the ride all that much. Mercedes will offer 19-inch wheels on the GLA, but like our test car, the standard 18-inch rims with the taller sidewalls is the wiser choice for our roads. As you sit higher up than in the A or the B class, the view of the road ahead is better. But just keep in mind that you'll still end up sitting lower than in the Ford EcoSport. Now the GLA that Hormuz drove was the homologation car. This is the production version. So we are going to take a look now to see what kind of equipment it's got, and I must say it is pretty well equipped. Mercedes believes that potential customers value equipment a lot more than power. So the GLA is loaded. It gets a rain-sensing panoramic sunroof, a reversing camera, navigation, memory seats for the driver and passenger with 4-way lumbar support. There's also a Harman Kardon sound system and ambient lighting. On the safety front, the GLA boasts of 7 airbags, attention assist and a tire pressure monitoring system. On the inside though, you'll be familiar with the design, as we've seen this before in the A and B class. And that's no bad thing. Those aluminium turbine style air vents are a pleasant highlight, as always. But where it really misses out a bit is in terms of space. This is as tight or as cozy as a CLA, but at the same time you do sit higher, so you get a better view out of the cabin. The front seats will be a bit snug, especially if you're tall. And the rear seat won't offer much by way of under-thigh support, and it's best for 2 abreast. But the boot space is a handy 421 liters, and the low loading lip makes it easier to stow luggage. So the GLA may not be the most exciting compact luxury SUV to drive or the most spacious, but it is very well equipped and certainly very desirable. Mercedes has now launched the GLA at 32.75 lakh rupees for the entry-level 200 CDI style variant, while the top-end sport variant is priced at 36.9 lakh rupees. The petrol version of the GLA, the 200, has been launched in only the top-end sport variant and is priced at 36 lakh rupees. Sure, the GLA isn't cheap, but Mercedes has made sure that it is equipped well enough to justify its premium price tag. But if you were looking for something even more exciting to drive, stay tuned, because Mercedes will launch the red-hot GLA 45 AMG in India very shortly.